done a couple of runs already, and things are going pretty good.
Cherokee traffic 1400 Bravo, about 7 miles to the southeast, inbound for the left downwind, runway 23, Cherokee.
Cherokee traffic, experimental 2 Tango Delta, runway 23, high speed taxi, Cherokee.
Alright, so this run's going to be about 3600 RPM on the prop. And we'll see how we go.
Cherokee County traffic, Scott 7.8 trade, crosswind 23, Cherokee. Cherokee County traffic, Scott 7.8 trade, departing pattern to the east, Cherokee.
Cherokee traffic, Skyhawk 12 Hotel, turning left base for runway 23, staying in the pattern, Cherokee traffic.
Cherokee traffic, experimental 2 Tango Delta, clear of 23, Cherokee.
Alright, so I'm getting this
Cherokee traffic 1400 Bravo, 4 miles southeast, inbound for left downwind, runway 23, Cherokee.
getting this pitching rolling moment happening down the runway.
10 miles out from Cherokee, what's your altitude? About 2,300. Roger that. We got you inside during the downwind. Yeah, I got you inbound, I'm no factor, I'm in the park to the east.
Cherokee traffic, Skyhawk 12 Hotel, turning final for runway 23, touch and go, Cherokee traffic.
I think this rolling moment is partly induced by some bumps in the runway there, but then it gets it rocking, and then I'm kind of like adding to it by over controlling the stick. I'm not trying to do that. On the previous run I didn't have that problem. One before that it was a little bit, and this one was a reasonable amount again, so I've got to just try and hold a certain amount of pressure in there into the, for the crosswind correction, and not, exacerbate the problem myself. So anyway, that was a strong run there with respect to the engine, and I'm not getting any slippage. I did have the one before, but I'm pretty sure, I'll have to look back at the log, I'm pretty sure I hit a high enough RPM to trigger the rev limiter even up at where I've got it set at 4,000.
Cherokee traffic 1400 Bravo, left downwind, runway 23. Cherokee traffic 1400 Bravo, on the go, runway 23, will be left traffic, Cherokee.
Cherokee traffic, experimental 2 Tango Delta, runway 23, high speed taxi, Cherokee.
Skyhawk 12 Hotel, turning left base, only 23, this time no full stop. Cherokee traffic.
Cherokee traffic 140 Sierra Bravo, turning left, crosswind, runway 23, Cherokee. Skyhawk 1-2 Hotel, turning final for runway 23, 2 full stops, Church Transit.
Cherokee traffic, experimental 2 Tango Delta, clear 23 Cherokee.
Cherokee traffic, 140 Sierra Bravo, left downwind, runway 23, Cherokee.
Alright, that one felt pretty good. Just holding a little bit of aileron in there just to, stop any rolling tendency that's, was oscillation induced. Maybe the case of just, because of, we're only doing slow speed right now, taking the spades off and seeing if they're not because the extra weight from those, seeing if they're not inducing this, this motion with that extra weight. They really only need to be on there for higher speed running. Designed to have two purposes, one to make the controls lighter and the other to dynamically balance the ailerons, which both I don't really need right now. But it'd be interesting to experiment just to take them off real quick and see what effect that has on anything and everything with respect to the ailerons.
And that last statement was probably not 100% correct, but let's move on for now. So looking at the belts here, you can see I've got the tensioner set up so it's just tight enough that it's keeping everything snug but not overly tight. And you can see that belt there is riding very close to the edge of the pulley there, but not all the way up. So it's actually riding in the perfect position right now. So I'm happy with the tension on the belts there, and I don't think I'm going to make any more changes, and they're not slipping either, so that's good. And moving on to the run that I did prior to those two, where I hit the rev limiter. This, looking in the log here, this is the particular run here, and you'll see because I had the governor or the prop set to go to maximum flat pitch, I actually ended up hitting as much as 4100 RPM there. If you sort of cycle through here, I can find the right spot. And on the if you look at the timing page here that I got set up, you can actually see, if I zoom in, right to this area where I hit the maximum RPM. Let's see where I'm going to do it here. Yeah, actually on the, no, not the fuel pressure. Yeah, I want to go back to the injection timing. Yeah, if I zoom in on this area, you'll see that I can pinpoint the spot where the rev limiter was, and it's right there. See that little blip there in the fuel pressure? So what ended up happening is I believe the ECU just cut off the injectors just for a split second there, and that created that pressure blip. And if you look up the top there, you can see right where the RPM, where that happened. So it was over 4,000, and I actually had the rev limiter set to 4,000 but with 100 offset. So if you look down in here in the engine speed limit, you can see in the limit there I have it set to 4,000, but I have the cut there set to 4,100. So when it got to 4,100, it just briefly cut the fuel, and I heard it as a blip and felt it a little bit, but this is just basically proving now that the belts aren't slipping. Those other blips that I heard on the last video, they were again the rev limiter being hit. And if I go back here to the timeline there, you can see I can move the cursor right to the point where it goes to 4,100. So just moving it along, yeah, there it is right there, 4,105. And that's right when it basically triggered that. So that explains all that scenario. And while we're here, let's have a look at the final run that I did there. That was the last one on the video, just to look at the numbers there. And let's see, so maximum RPM I hit was 3,800, and then the governor kicked in, and actually the prop was set a lot more coarse than what I thought. I thought it was 3,600, but it was actually 3,300. and you see boost there got to 42.8, and fuel flow was 19.6. EGT is reasonable at 1530 there, and the oil temps and coolant temps were rising, so that's going to be the thing I have to really pay the most attention to when we end up having the first flight, just to see how much they're going to go up on climb out. And as I've been saying before, it may be a case of having to pull the power back, just on the second half of climb out if those temperatures start to rise too rapidly. They'll probably get to a point where they'll start to level out just because of their airflow, or that's what I'm hoping. But anyway, we'll see how things go on that later on.
Cherokee County traffic, experimental 2 Tango Delta, runway 23, high-speed taxi, Cherokee.
All right. So this test is going to be to see how the ailerons feel, and if I get any sort of bouncing around with the spades removed.
Cherokee County traffic, Columbia 8 Tango Alpha is departing the area on a 45 from runway 5 to the northeast for Cherokee.
Alright, that didn't work. Let's see what happened there. Well, that was not fun, I can tell you. Don't want to do that again, so I'm going to take it back right now and talk to Mark about that. But obviously having the spades on there is kind of necessary at this point. So, alright.
And after a close inspection, I found that I had a problem that was caused by that little bit of a wild ride there. What had happened was the spherical bearings that are housed in these carbon FR4 brackets there that hold the big 1-inch thick pins there that hold the upper retraction linkage, they had actually slipped out and sort of gone forward and aft from their mating place, and this is the one on the other side. This is how it's supposed to look, and so the arm there is right up against where those spherical bearings are. And what ended up happening, if you look on this one, I've got it sort of disassembled now completely so I can get to everything, because those spherical bearings have to be put back in place again. But there was a piece of FR4 on both of them on the back side there that was stopping those spherical bearings from pushing out. And as you can see there, if you look through that hole, you can see the bit that was the FR4 there with a carbon thing on it. And this one had the same thing. It basically pushed out. So this is what the piece looks like. It was bonded on with high sol, but no layup over the top of it. And just the twisting forces on the leg ended up pushing enough on the spherical bearing forward and aft that it actually broke that bond free. And then, because of the repeated bouncing up and down, the spherical bearings eventually just basically slid forward and aft, and then sort of weren't sitting in their little homes there. So I have to basically fix this now, and what I'm going to do is put like a big heavy washer in between those the scissor arm brackets there, and those the carbon brackets will stop this from happening again. Anyway, moving on. So that's one fix I have to do here. I'm doing an experiment here to see how much more weight needs to be added to these spades to balance them correctly. So I've got my 4-pound weight on there, and then this is without the weight, just to show you what happens here when you vibrate the wing. And you can see the aileron sort of moving up and down, kind of like on its own. So the wing's doing one thing and the aileron's doing something else. So that's with the spade without the spade on there, just the bracket all on its own. That's how I had it in that last run. And in slow motion, for part of it, you can see how it's just doing its own thing there. And this is because the center of gravity, or the center of mass of the aileron, is behind the hinge point. So when the hinge pulls up and down, it's not basically pulling the aileron the same way. And then if you look at it with the spade on there, so this is how I originally had it, you'll see it's actually better, but there's still movement there. In other words, it's not following what the wing is actually doing. Of course, the aircraft is on blocks right now, so the whole thing doesn't move around, just the wing. If you see it in slow motion, you can see the same thing. It's following better, but it's still not perfect, and that's because there just wasn't enough weight on those the spade arm extensions to bring the center of mass of the aileron directly underneath the hinge line, and that's where it needs to be. So we knew this was a problem. So this is with that extra 4.5 pounds on the bracket now, and you can see the aileron literally just following along the wing. It's almost like it's hard mounted to it, and if you look in slow motion, you can see exactly. I'll do it a couple of times here, and you'll see in slow motion how much better it is with that extra weight on there. So here it is in slow motion, and you can see how it's almost like it's hard fixed. Now it is hanging down a little bit, and that's just because of the mismatch in the balance and stuff, but you can see it's following, and this is the fix that needs to happen. So what I did was completely wrong, but in hindsight, it helped me find two things. It helped me identify that this needs to be fixed now and not later on for flutter testing, and also showed me a weakness in the landing gear, because how rough that ride was equivalent to probably 20 bad landings, and so I think that's a good test for the landing gear. And just for one more test there, just so you can see how it is if I'm doing one wing to the other. So this is going to be the fix, and I'm just going to be putting another plate on there that's going to add the extra 4.5 pounds, and then I'll obviously take it out on the runway and test it. And I didn't just guess this 4.5 pounds there. I actually disconnected one of the ailerons completely and then added that weight there, and it was enough to bring the aileron directly in line with the trailing edge of the wing, and it just happened to be that the size of that hockey puck that I had there, which was 4.5 pounds. So it wasn't just a guess. It just turns out that's how much I need. So anyway, you can see in slow motion that's just going to fix that problem, and obviously I'm going to test it again, but I think this is a win-win in the end, even though I got a little bit of damage. Anyway, that's the update for the first half of this week. Tune in again on Saturday and see what I have for you. Thanks for watching.